It's vlog 33, and today we're going to talk about how you can use political cartoons to help teach the Civil War. Welcome back to the vlog. Today we're going to talk about how you can use political cartoons to teach the Civil War. I'm going to share two specific resources in terms of books, and then also give you an online resource that I think might be helpful for your own classroom as well. I think political cartoons are a very powerful way to help your students understand complex political and current events. Now, the curriculum that I teach begins with early settlement in America and concludes with the Civil War. So for us, the time period that really has the most impact in terms of political cartoons would have to be the Civil War. Yes, there are some political cartoons prior to that. There's some things that you can pull into the American Revolutionary time period, but really the proliferation of newspapers towards the Civil War tends to lend this specific unit as the one that we typically would use for editorial cartoons, unless we're doing something with modern day current events. A particular aspect of the Civil War political cartoons that I think is powerful is the different viewpoints of Abraham Lincoln. We tend to think of Lincoln today as a hero and as a savior, and in reality, a lot of people back in Lincoln's time period did not view him as such. One of the most powerful experiences I had with that was in the Lincoln Presidential Museum and Library in Springfield, Illinois. My wife and I were there in about 2002, and as we're walking through the exhibit, there's a really powerful room called the Whispering Room, and it's got kind of like low lighting, kind of blue lighting, and there's all these editorial cartoons on the walls as you walk through, and then you hear all of these different audio tracks as you're walking through the particular room, and most of them are very negative about Lincoln. So it's kind of a weird sensation to be walking through a room full of all of these editorial cartoons that happen to focus on negative aspects of Lincoln and people that are saying extremely negative things about Lincoln. So I think that's one way that we can introduce that to students that helps them understand that not everybody was a fan of Lincoln during his lead up to the presidency, and then of course during his presidency as well. So I have two resources that I wanted to share with you today that I have on my shelf in my own personal classroom library. The first one is called Lines of Contention, Political Cartoons of the Civil War. And this is roughly about $10 or so on Amazon. It's a paperback. But the thing that I really like about this book is it has quite a bit of text along with the political cartoon. So it's telling you a little bit about the time period. At the same time, it's trying to explain the cartoon. So this is a great way to get one specific political cartoon and then maybe ask students what they think about it, ask them ahead of time, and then provide some of the context provided along in the book. So there's some great images here. Some of these are Harper's Weekly. Some of these are different newspapers from the time period. But it's nicely done. It has a nice mix of text. Here's a great one on Copperheads as you're talking about the Northern Democrats wanting to side for peace. So there's a lot of historical context that goes along with the political cartoons from the time period. So really nice book. Again, about $10 or so. Lines of Contention. The publishing date on this, I believe it's 2007. So about 10 years old, and you can find it on Amazon, and I have the link on Amazon on the show notes if you're interested in this one. A second resource that I use is called The Lines Are Drawn, Political Cartoons of the Civil War. Very similar book, so there's a lot of the same political cartoons in this particular book, and on this one, they tend to have a little bit more focus on the particular cartoon in terms of text. The previous book is a little bit of a flowing narrative. What this does is it takes a specific cartoon and it explains. So again, this is like the Copperhead one that I just showed on the previous book. And then down below it on one page, it has very specific information about that political cartoon. So again, this is about $10 or so. This one's a little bit older print. I believe this one is 1999 copyright. Yeah, this is a 1999 copyright. So again, it's available on Amazon. A little bit harder to find, but totally possible. And I have the link for this one on my show notes as well. One comment of caution, if you're going to use either of these books, they do show political cartoons of that time period, and some of them are dealing with issues of race and slavery, and so some of the wording and some of the portrayals of some of these might not be exactly politically correct in a classroom in 2017. So go ahead and check out the cartoons before you just assign students to use them. They are from that time period. Just wanted you to be aware of that if you're going to use them in your classroom. Now, in addition to the two books, I also wanted to share an online resource for you. There are a lot of great online resources dealing with editorial cartoons. One that I particularly like is from the AAEC. That stands for the Association of American Editorial Cartoonists. That's hard to say real fast. But they have a great website called Cartoons for the Classroom. And what they've done is they've taken a current events cartoon, and about every week or 2 weeks or so, they have a PDF format editorial cartoon where they have some questions about the cartoon. It's really well laid out for you, easy to print and then bring into the classroom. And they've kind of set it up so that it's super friendly for teachers to just print and use the next day in class. And then they also have some additional resources there as well. So that's a great place to go. They also have an editorial cartoon typically that has a thought bubble or a speech bubble that is not filled out. So your students then have to look at the editorial cartoon and then they fill in what's actually being said, which is a really great strategy to get students to not only analyze a cartoon, but also really interpret and then put their own spin on it as well. So there's a couple of ideas on using editorial cartoons both for current events and also as a resource for your Civil War unit. I would be curious how you're using editorial cartoons, any great resources or websites that you have that you'd like to contribute. Go ahead and leave a comment on the video here on YouTube down below, or you could also email me. And as always, all of the resources that we're talking about are available on our website, which is historygeekteacher.com. That's going to do it for today. If you like the videos, go ahead and subscribe on YouTube. And remember, until next time, history is so much more than just a bunch of boring old dead guys. See you.